Hi there, I'm Chef Eric Crowley, owner of the Culinary Classroom in West Los Angeles, and today I'm going to show you how to make Hollandaise sauce. For the sauce itself, we are going to need about 4 ounces of butter, melted. We're also going to need 2 egg yolks, a few drops of lemon juice. We're going to need about 1 to 2 teaspoons of water, a little pinch of cayenne pepper, or a little bit more if you want to make it spicy, and a small pinch of salt. We're also going to need a pot of barely simmering water, which I have here, and we're going to make what we call a bain-marie. Okay? Now, one of the things you'll see as I tilt the pot here, we have some very gentle bubbles coming up from the bottom of the pot, and we have a nice head of steam coming up here. This is going to be really ideal and essential in order to make the Hollandaise. Hollandaise is a sauce that really doesn't hold very well, so you want to make it right before you're going to serve it. We're going to wind up starting off with a bowl. I'm going to have a bowl that's going to be able to set over the pot of water, making sure that the water in the pot does not touch the bowl. The steam is going to be the only thing that's going to come up and come in contact with the bowl. Inside the bowl, we're going to put in 2 egg yolks, about a teaspoon of water, maybe a little squeeze of lemon juice, and a little pinch of salt. I'm going to whip this all together and get it really nice and foamy and frothy. The egg yolks are also going to thicken as we continue to whip them up. Once we start to get a nice thickened quality to it, we take the bowl with the egg yolks and set it over a pot of water and start to stir it around. Really important that you keep the eggs moving. Don't let them sit for too long. Also important that you occasionally lift up the bowl rather, and take a look at the water inside the pot. If the water starts to really achieve a really large roaring boil, you can either lower the heat or take the bowl off of the water and let it cool off a little bit. What we're looking for as we do this, we're looking for the yolks to start to lighten up in color, and we're looking for the bubbles that I'm starting to create by the whip to actually start to get a little bit finer, smaller bubbles. And we're also looking for the whip as I start to move it through the egg yolks to start to leave a little trail. In other words, the wires on the whip are going to leave little marks inside the egg yolks, letting us know that the egg yolks are thickening slightly. Also notice that I'm trying to keep the egg yolks in the bottom of the bowl, trying to keep them from splashing up on the side. And you can see that my water is starting to come up to a boil. I'm going to take the bowl off of the heat. And whip it around. Okay? It doesn't take very long, and very shortly, if I take the whip and I start to move it through the egg yolks, it's going to start to leave a little trail. The bubbles are really a lot smaller, and the yolks are also lighter in color. We're looking for a Hollandaise. We're looking to cook the egg yolks but not scramble them. So if you have big visible white chunks of egg yolk inside the bowl, you've overdone the Hollandaise sauce and you should start all over again, or else the sauce is going to have a decidedly cooked egg taste to it. Back onto the water for about 10 or 15 seconds. If you need to change direction in the whip, change arms. If your arm's getting tired, you can certainly do that. There we are. I'm liking the way that looks. So really, really fine bubbles. When I move the whip inside the yolks, it leaves a trail that just lasts a split second. You can tell that the yolks are slightly thicker than they were when we first started. Now we're going to start to emulsify. We're actually going to take the small amount of water that I poured in here along with the lemon juice, and we're going to incorporate some melted butter in order to create an emulsified sauce. The butter is going to form little droplets around the water and around the lemon juice to create a sauce that's really cohesive. At this point, it's important that the Hollandaise stay warm but not continue to cook. So I've turned the heat off of our pot of water. You can actually take the pot of water off of the stove as well. And if you're making this at home alone, you'll find it'll be helpful to take a dry towel drape it over the pot, and set your bowl on top. This is going to help stabilize the eggs, and it's also going to keep the sauce from getting too cold. If it gets too cold, it's going to thicken up and it's going to be like a mayonnaise. Likewise, if it continues to cook, if we have the pot on the stove, the eggs are going to scramble. So over here, I have some melted butter. Some recipes will actually call for clarified butter. And what clarified butter means is you wind up taking the butter, this is whole butter that we've melted, all these milk solids that are up on top, or these impurities, you skim away. And then below that, you're going to wind up seeing a nice layer of yellow liquid. That's butter fat. And that is clarified butter underneath this white foam. And then we also have some milk solids that are in the bottom of the pan. Honestly, if you're going to be making a large amount of hollandaise, which would only be essential if you're working in a restaurant kitchen or a hotel, like say maybe a quart of hollandaise, would clarified butter really be necessary? For the amount of hollandaise we're going to wind up making today, just melted butter will wind up being fine. Now we're going to start to emulsify. The key to emulsifying in here is we want to take the butter and we want to add it in very gradually. We're literally going to take a drop of butter and drip it into the eggs while we're constantly whipping. Okay? So I'm going to take my pan. You can use a ladle or you could use a pitcher with a spout on it. That may be a little bit more helpful to you, right? So I'm just going to take this butter and I'm going to slowly pour and literally just get a drop to come off of the edge of this pan and drop onto the eggs. Whip it in. Another drop is going to go like that and another drop, and I can gradually increase that pour while I'm constantly whipping and get a nice thin stream of butter to get into the egg yolk mixture that's inside the bowl. It's really important that the butter be melted, but not right off of the heat. If you have the butter that just got off of the melt and it's still really bubbling and hot, the butter is going to be so hot it's going to cook the eggs. So you want the butter melted and allowed to cool off for about a minute or two. Now I can really start to increase the butter as far as pouring into a nice thin stream. And you can see how the sauce in the bowl is actually starting to take an emulsion. It's starting to come together. It's also going to start to thicken up. And if it thickens up and it gets to the point to where it's a mayonnaise consistency, you want to thin it down with a little bit of water. Now I can really start to pour in the butter. There we go. Once we have all the butter incorporated, general rule is for every egg yolk you have inside the bowl, you can incorporate about 4 ounces of butter or a stick. We're going to season our sauce. That's where the cayenne pepper comes in. Maybe a little bit of salt because I do use unsalted butter here at the classroom. There we are. And maybe even a little bit of lemon juice. As you can see, this is a classic butter sauce. Lemon juice is going to wind up giving it a little bit of sharpness and help cut through the fatty quality of the sauce. After the butter's been incorporated, I'm going to go ahead and season it. A little pinch of cayenne pepper, maybe a little squeeze of lemon juice. A little pinch of salt. Stir that all in. Give it a little taste. Use a little bit more salt and a little bit more cayenne too. A couple more drops of lemon juice. So it's a good idea to taste the sauce a couple of times, adjust your seasoning. If it seems a little bit flat on the palate, it's probably going to use a pinch of salt. If it seems a little bit heavy, rich, then you can get a couple of drops of lemon juice in. Another thing you can also check for is a classic sauce consistency if you want to pour this over like a poached egg, for example. And a classic sauce consistency is what we call nappe. We wind up taking a spoon and dip it into the sauce. Hold the spoon straight up and down. The sauce should coat the back of the spoon nice and evenly. And I should also be able to take my finger and cut across that coating. And notice the way that that cut that I wound up making is not dripping back down. Okay? If it starts to drip back down, the sauce needs to be a little bit thicker. And the easiest way to do that is just incorporate some more butter in order to thicken it up. That's classic nappe. Really good sauce consistency. Give it a little taste. Nice balance, a little bit of tanginess, a little bit of heat from the cayenne pepper, just a little bit of a burn on the back of the throat. It shouldn't be outrageous. Primary flavor should be butter, followed by lemon, and then a little bit of cayenne. And as I was mentioning before, this sauce is not going to keep very long. It's going to sit on this bain-marie on a pot of warm water off of the heat for probably going to be about 10, maybe 15 minutes. That's about it. But as you can see, it's very, very simple to make. And that is your Hollandaise sauce. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to subscribe so you can get some additional information. If there's a recipe that you would like to see me make, feel free to send an email to requests@mahalo.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.